Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Star Wars Explorer, otherwise the Explorer submergible uh, that we get from West End Games, I believe. So, looks like it's coming from the Kraken's Rebel Field Guide and Alliance Intelligence Reports, which does squarely put it into the old West End Games. So, the Explorer submergible was an aquatic vehicle, AAV, manufactured by Hydrosphere Corporation's Design Team Beta for the Galactic Empire. It had a hull of lightweight link steel with urethane threads and could also withstand 8,000 BPS of water pressure, equal to the depth of 5 kilometers underwater on most worlds. The vehicle moves by scuttling across the ocean floor using the scone grip legs to grab a secure foothold. The crew compartment is very cramped, with both passengers stuffed into a small cubbyhole, and all crew members except the turret gunner lying on their bellies. The pressurized entry/exit hatch is located on the underside of the body. Originally, the Empire intended the Explorer to become an all-terrain, multi-environment amphibious assault craft. Project manager Dr. Tolium Horace worked hard to fulfill the Empire's initial requirements, but the logistics of the project proved impossible for the same design to work both in land and water, as the design team were unable to get the vehicle swift enough underwater and mobile enough on land to meet the Empire's dual criteria. So the Empire opted for a design purely for underwater exploration and combat. Although Harrius wanted to keep trying, the rest of the design team beta convinced him to develop the Explorer as a submergible vehicle and one of the first AAVs. Even then, the Explorer submergible gives Hydrosphere Corporation a great name, becoming uh, with the AT-AT Swimmer one of the best known designs. All right, although officially considered an underwater exploration vehicle, its heavy armament was designed to destroy or subdue hostile life forms. Now, like I said, this is coming to us from Kraken's Rebel Field Guide, the Alliance Intelligence Reports, and Strongholds of the Resistance. What we have here listed on the wiki page gives us a length of 9.1 meters, a height of 6 meters, a maximum speed of about 60 to 85 kilometers per hour. Armament, we have a forward heavy blaster cannon, a light blaster cannon turret, a active sensor array. We have one pilot, one co-pilot, and two gunners, as well as two passengers. So in here, we're going to have about 6 people cramped inside. But it's an interesting concept and design, a six-legged walker. So let's get on over to our stats and then a hopefully a little bit better view of our picture and go from there. All right, so looking at our stats here today. Now this is simply listed as an explorer in our book, but it is under the submersibles and watercraft section. So it does keep all that in there without kind of fully naming it as the Explorer submersible. This is going to be at Walker scale. So, again, a length of 9.1 meters. Has the crew of two, gunners of two, skeleton of one can operate this with a plus 15 difficulty. We do have room for two passengers and 500 kilograms of cargo. Has a full coverage. Maneuverability is going to be a 1D underwater plus a or plus two on land. So it's actually a little bit more maneuverable underwater than it is on land. All right, a move of 85 kilometers an hour underwater and 60 kilometers an hour on land. Body strength is 3D. So a little bit more resilient than what our standard is going to be, but still um, not as strong as maybe some of the vehicles we have that are dedicated war machines. All right, we do have that heavy blaster cannon in the front at Walker scale with a fire control of 1D and a damage of 5D. We also have a blaster cannon on the turret, and that's going to be at Walker scale as well. Fire control is 1D and damage is 2D. Now, this itself comes to us from the Alliance Intelligence Reports, page 41, and Kraken's Rebel Field Guide, page 45. Now, as a six-legged walker, again, this is kind of a nice, interesting way of doing things. Um, for like an explorer core and everything else, I think this is wonderful. Uh, a cramped design like this, but you know, they're pushing an envelope. We don't really think about it in those regards in Star Wars, but when you're starting to see it's underwater and um, you're trying to see how far down you can go, as well as kind of maintain other things. 5 kilometers down is pretty remarkable, getting underwater. So unfortunately, we have to kind of work things out. And as we learned by the what was it, the Ocean Gate, or Ocean whatever it was, that submarine that they did not build correctly, you're trying to maintain that pressure on the inside without squishing anyone. Unlike an airplane where you're trying to keep that same bubble, but you're doing it in a different way. It has its different properties because you have the external forces out there that are crushing in on you a lot harder than when you're going up into the air. You're trying to maintain an atmosphere and a whole different parameters, and going from that point. But it is an interesting thing to say that we have an underwater walker for trying to get around underwater, and explore. One of the things that has been brought up in some of the other books is they do have an explorer core. Um, Unfortunately, most of what we watch in the movies is just centering on a small group of people dealing with, the ideology of who's right, who's wrong. The Galactic Empire being originally brought to us as an oppressive government that had kind of swooped in, um, and taken over what was a great republic, and gone from there. So some of these things, especially like the Explorer Corps, there's other agencies and all that they really don't change in how they do things because they're not really affected by the war. They're out there taking care of the other mundane day to day things that we just take for granted. Um, just your regular customs and everything else. Some of the rules in the books might change a little bit, but they still do their mission day in and day out without any real change in it. And from some of the other things that goes on in our own real world, quite often that does end up being about the way things go. We do have government agencies that, yes, there may be a change in like a coup or whatever else, but these agents keep their jobs because they're needed to just go through customs and all that, and new policies might get rolled out of, okay, well, we want you to do it this way instead of that way. Otherwise, they're still gainfully employed and still doing the same job they did before. So, with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.